Marelux underwater housings represent a new era in underwater housing manufacturing with a focus on affordability and ingenuity. This new aluminum housing brand features a rugged, scratch-resistant anodization and a promise for innovative software incorporated into each design. This video is to show you our first experience with the brand and why we at Bluewater Photo have decided to bring Marelux into our lineup of underwater housings. We are proud to announce that we are Marelux's first and only current retailer in North America. Hey guys, this is Nirpam from the Underwater Photography Guide and Bluewater Photo. Now today's a pretty exciting day. It's not every day that you get a new brand of underwater housing on the market. This is a brand called Marelux. They're a maker of anodized aluminum housings. What I find pretty exciting about them is they're kind of a software-oriented company. So their background is in software. It's in engineering housings as well. They've got engineers with experience making housings. And I'm excited to see what kind of technology they kind of integrate with their housing. All of their housings are anodized aluminum. Currently, most of these housings are for higher end models. This one here is for the Canon EOS R5, which is our favorite underwater camera for this year. They also have housings for the Sony A1, the Sony A7R4, the Nikon Z6 II, Z7 II, and I'm expecting a lot more great models to come. So it's pretty exciting what they already have in store. They've already got a full lineup of housings, ports, extensions, so you can actually go ahead, purchase a housing from us at Bluewater Photo and take it underwater. Now, right off the bat, you might notice that there's kind of an interesting color tone to this housing. What I like about Marelux is they're not just your standard black, boring housing. They actually have multiple color options that you can choose from. So this here is, and I've got all the colors here with me, this is Yale Blue. They also have burgundy, they have black, mocha, olive green, and silver gray. So I'm actually a big fan of this Yale Blue. It looks really nice in person, and it's kind of cool to have a housing with a blue tint on the outside and their O-rings. If you haven't been able to see them yet, I can show you. The O-rings are bright green like their logo, so it's actually kind of an exciting look to them. So this is the inside of the housing. You can see the engineering inside is very sleek, it's very streamlined, and it's well thought out. So every control on this R5 housing has been engineered to fit the camera, and it's pretty much the same for every housing that they have currently. Now, I wanted to show you guys a few features of this housing, and then I'll get into what we kind of expect to be in store for the brand. So for when it comes to the housing, you can see there's actually a manual flash trigger inside, and along with that there are some ports for fiber optic cables. So this housing accepts CNC style fiber optic cables, and currently there are only manual flash triggers for Marelux housings, but I've been talking with them and it sounds like they might have some TTL options in the future. The nice thing is though, they've got some accessory ports, so if you wanted to hook up an M16 bulkhead with some sync cords, you could also use sync connections, and even TTL converters like the iClight TTL converters will work with this housing. Now, to take the back panel off the housing, it's actually pretty simple. You've got these two levers right here which have locks, and you can just put the back panel on the housing and lock like so. And I'm actually pretty proud of myself for doing that on camera that easily. It's always harder to put a housing together on camera than off camera. So they have a lock mechanism, which Marelux tells me they're still in the development stages. This is really one of the first models in North America I've got in my hands. So you can expect a few changes, but there is a locking mechanism. Each housing does come with a built-in vacuum system and a moisture alarm with electronics installed. So you also have your vacuum system, and I can always go over the full vacuum system in a longer video, but basically it turns on from the inside of the housing like so. And right here you've got your moisture alarm and vacuum alarm sensor and visual light. So now you can see I've just turned on the vacuum alarm right here, and it's flashing yellow. once I put it back on, it's ready to vacuum the whole system. And then I just turn it off with the single press of a button on the inside. So the on-off switch is actually really cool. It's just a red button on the inside. Now, overall, I'm really liking the ergonomics on the back panel of this housing. All the buttons are pretty nice to press. They're a little bit on the stiffer side than some other housing companies, but I kind of like that, and they bounce back, so it's really nice and easy to press. Now, Marelux is working on a magnified viewfinder, and I've also heard rumors it will be able to show you your depth and temperature, so that's gonna be super exciting to see that kind of integration. And again, that goes into the fact that Marelux has started out in the software space, and because of that, some of their accessories are just really incredible when it comes to their innovation. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they come out with. I'm looking forward to trying that viewfinder. They've also got a new optical snoot I'm looking forward to trying, and a console that might even be able to remote control these housings someday. So that's going to be pretty cool to watch. Now, when it comes to price points, what I wanted to mention is that Marelux seems to be sitting currently right in the middle tier of the aluminum housing lines, and it's actually very nicely priced. So one of the reasons that I would take a look at this housing is because I think that it's priced below what it should be when it comes to how much technology is in this housing. It's actually really great value for money. With everything we're dealing with when it comes to inflation and our economy, it does make sense to look at Marelux from a financial standpoint, and also just from a great ergonomic and technological standpoint as well. Now, I haven't spoken too much about the ports. The ports, to me, they look pretty sturdy. I'm excited to scratch them up, bang them up a little bit in the surf and in the swell. Currently, Marelux only has glass ports, but they will likely be working on acrylic as well. Their glass ports seem to be very high quality. Let's move this over here. They all come with a neoprene cover, comes out quite easily, and a nice glass port. Now, I've done some macro dives this weekend, and I'm about to get in the water for some wide angle dives, and I just wanted to talk about some of my favorite aspects of the housing, and also what I think could be potentially improved. Now, so far, I've had an awesome time with the housing. Probably my favorite thing about it is how scratch resistant it is. I do admit, I was diving, it was limited visibility, I was a little bit careless, I completely slammed into a rock. Sorry, Marelux. I was a little worried that this housing would just be kind of trashed, and lo and behold, there's no scratches at all. I've never really had that happen with a housing. If I've been in an accident with a rock, I usually get a scratch or two. I'm pretty impressed by how scratch resistant this housing is, and I think it's probably the most scratch resistant housing out there. Now, I talked to Marelux. They said they do have a special aluminum treatment that they use, so that explains why I didn't get any scratches. Along with that, what's really been nice is I like the blue color on the housing. You know, underwater it's a little bit harder to tell when you have less light there, but it looks pretty sleek above water, and I mean, maybe it's a little bit vain, but I've been enjoying that feature very much. The buttons and the controls are really easy to use. One of the most innovative controls that I've liked so far is that there's this kind of back and forth control for the recording and function buttons, and that's kind of cool because if you flip the control one way or the other way, it'll kind of have two different functions there. The vacuum seal has held very nicely. It's very easy to use. You just take off this cap and you pump it up. It does take a few more pumps than I might like, but at the same time, it really doesn't matter. It's like an extra 10-20 seconds of pumping. So when it comes to the O-rings themselves, you might have noticed already that they are bright lime green. Well, there's a reason for that. The O-rings, because they're brighter, it's easier to see particulates, hairs, sand, anything that might cause a compromise to the seal. And I've been able to get all the grit and dirt off of it very easily because I can actually see it now. And that's probably the first time I've actually been able to see just how dirty my housing or my O-rings look. So another aspect of the housing that I've really enjoyed is the manual flash trigger. As soon as you plug the camera into the flash trigger, you don't really have to turn it on. You just have to hit the shutter and it automatically fires. So you don't have to worry about like seeing if your flash trigger is turned on or off. And that's been really cool to just put the camera in, you're good to go. So you might be wondering how many flashes this manual flash trigger can go through before the battery dies. Now the batteries on the flash trigger are actually rated for 160,000 flashes, so there's really no need to worry about running out of flash even during a whole trip. I think it would take probably about maybe 10 trips before you run out of batteries, but it depends on how much you shoot. For any of you that were wondering, the fiber optic cables do hold in fairly tightly. To actually put them in, I gotta kind of push down. So I haven't had any problems with fiber optic cables coming out. The connection's been very secure, so that's been awesome to use. I do hope that they come out with some TTL options soon in the future, but if not, there is an M16 bulkhead and an M24 bulkhead. So not only can you attach an HDMI cable for an external monitor, but you can also attach sync cords through the bulkhead. And with those sync cords, you can also attach external TTL converters like the Ike-Light TTL converter with Ike-Light strobes. There are TTL options for this housing through the bulkhead. Now, one of the things that I was actually pleasantly surprised and didn't notice at first was the size of the opening to the port. Might be kind of hard to see here, but it's almost as wide as the dome itself. Now what that means is if you have a lens with a zoom gear on it, you can easily fit the camera and the lens right through the port. And with the way that the tray mechanism works in the housing, as soon as you put the camera into the housing and you lock that tray, the camera moves over and the zoom gear locks in with the zoom gear externally. So the zoom gear works very, very well. And you don't have to worry about, oh, is my zoom gear lining up? It just locks in when you put it in the housing. So that's a pretty cool feature, and that's probably one of the biggest complaints that I have for most housings is I just can't get the zoom gears to work. And with the Marelux housing, the zoom gears work. Not to mention all the buttons, all the controls have been working pretty flawlessly. I mean, I noticed one dial or two, it'd be nice to have a little bit more of a turn per rotation, but I mean, that's a very minor thing. And that's just my personal preference. Other people might prefer it other ways. And finally, let's talk about the most obvious aspects of the housing. It is depth rated to 100 meters. I did not dive to 100 meters. I dove to maybe 30 meters and it was fine. It worked great. There were no problems at depth. And finally, the size of the housing. So honestly, it feels smaller than most aluminum housings. Underwater, it's pretty light because it is small. I dove without floats and it was on the heavier side, so I'd probably use maybe 1 or 2 floats, but it doesn't need a whole lot of floats. And it's overall pretty light for an aluminum housing. And I've just been really happy with how compact and easy it feels to use. So that's my first overview, my first thoughts after taking the Marelux housing diving. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. For more information on Marelux, make sure you email us at sales@bluewaterphotostore.com. We can set you up with a quote for a whole system. There's plenty of systems out there. I'll list all the systems we have available currently in the description below. If you think you might switch to Marelux or you might use this brand in the future, make sure you drop a comment below. If you have any questions, drop a comment below, we'll answer them. Make sure you hit that like button, guys, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.